And let's just do Band of Brothers quickly, which I'm aware is a 23-year-old TV show that a lot of people might not be recalling to the front of their memory, particularly. However,
the box set everyone had.
And I do I should have brought it with me, the metal-cased Concertina Steelbook, absolutely. But Masters of the Air is out at the moment, and it's heavily advertised as from the producers of the Band of Brothers.
Hans Spielberg
collab. Very quickly, if you haven't seen Band of Brothers, well, you should have done.
Yeah.
Because as I will go on to explain, I realised for my fourth time watching it that it is one of the best TV series of all time.
But I think it's really...
You're due a rewatch.
Yeah.
So very quickly, it follows the true accounts of a company of soldiers called Easy Company in World War II as part of the 101st Airborne Division. They were trained throughout 42 and 43 to parachute into the European theatre of conflict as part of D-Day. So we follow them from training, jumping into D-Day in June 1944, and then their journey from there to the end of the war over the course of a year. And they encounter very famous campaigns, very famous things. And the story of Easy Company is very interesting over the course of 10 episodes. You meet a broad ensemble of characters, each character given different focus throughout each episode. But the main character is, broadly speaking, Damian Lewis's character of Dick Winters. Whether it's after D-Day, whether it's Operation Market Garden, whether it's the Battle of the Bulge, France, Belgium, Holland, Germany, and Austria. It's a really interesting tale, as we all know. I first saw it, I think, when it came out. I've seen it 4 times. I've even read the book. But I wanted to watch it this time because, I don't know, new year, new energy. My girlfriend Anna had never seen it. And I was like, okay, it's high time you watch it.
Also a very early, super prestige, high-budget television show, which very much... We take those for granted now. But that, at the time, would have been like period, detail, very high-budget battle scenes. You didn't really see that on the small screen.
And it's an HBO production. And it's funny, I remember someone asking once that when you hear the HBO thing, what's the theme tune you hear after it?
Yeah.
And that was my first experience of HBO. So when I hear the of HBO, I immediately hear the Band of Brothers theme tune afterwards. Yeah. And I will just say the Michael Kamen score for Band of Brothers, exceptional. Yeah. The theme tune, the opening feature is iconic. It's fantastic. So anyway, I rewatched it. It's the 4th time, and yes, it's still fantastic. And I knew that from the first episode going in. What I love is it's shot on film. It's still at that era when it was shot in 2000 and released in 2001. Shot on film, so it has that great grainy tactility. It's also color graded to be very brown and green and like it's looking at a period photo from the 40s. It has what great TV series have, which is no filler. Each episode can stand alone on its own and has great merit and is like embarking on a new film. It's not one single filler episode that you think, oh, you could have taken that out. It has 10 solid episoves that each constitute.
It's about limited series. They're telling one story and it goes.
And I think this is my main takeaway from it. It's like that TV series, limited series, is 23 years old, but it is still loved by a lot of people. It's ranked on IMDb and across the internet as one of the best TV series of all time. And it goes to show that if you make something of good quality, it will last. There's never been a Band of Brothers sequel. I know that they did the Pacific and now they do Masters of the Air. But my point is, for a show that only had 10 episodes 23 years ago, there's a reason people still watch it. There's a reason people like me go back and rewatch it. It's because it's very, very good.
You can show it to your kid in 20 years and it would still hold up.
And in terms of the quality of the production, it really hasn't dated much at all. There's, I think I might read an email in a second, which there's like an odd bit of CGI here and there, but you have to really squint to find it. Excellent work.
There's a thing that like a lot of the best CGI from the 2000s, like the worst looks bad, but the best CGI from the 2000s looks great today.
Yes.
Whereas the best CGI from the 2010s doesn't look great today because there's a difference in the style. Anyway,
I also think that there's something, even though it holds up well today as well, there's something refreshingly straightforward about it that I think wouldn't get made now. And what I mean is that it never seeks to necessarily justify its existence by unpacking or having to completely deconstruct every element about it. My point is, it doesn't need. It's about an American military unit in the 40s. I think if that story was made now, they'd really unpack everything about the moral dilemmas and the kind of the the role of military and the importance of war. And I think what I quite like about it, and from the era it was made, it was like, well, we all just know that like this is a really good story, and it was during a war that was like incredibly difficult, but like we can kind of broadly get behind. I think. Do you understand what I mean? Like I think now it would get this sort of moral grey area, and I like the kind of quite clean cut focus of it, and that really helps. I think it's just a really great experience, and I just want to read 2 emails that we got about it that kind of nudged me to watch it for the 4th time. The first was from Lucy, and she said, we mentioned Band of Brothers recently, and she said, I just finished rewatching the series a few days ago. I just wanted to sing its praises on the off chance that anyone hasn't seen it. And I do agree, if you haven't seen it, absolutely check it out. It's only 10 episodes. What are you missing? I also, sorry, that was my other thing. I thought, I was interested to watch it with Anna, because I wondered if it was going to be too male, militaristic, aggressive. It was her first time watching it, and it was not that case at all, because it's handled so sensitively. Yeah. She was like, within 3 episodes, she was like, I'm going to need to rewatch all of these. They're so great. Anyway, so Lucy continues and says, I know you often get asked about your favorite film scores, but the Band of Brothers score is definitely at the top for me. It is so beautiful. I never skip the opening credits. Yeah, absolutely never skip the opening credits of Band of Brothers, because I enjoy it so much. And its final rendition in the last episode during the baseball game, not spoiler, coupled with the voiceover summarizing what happened, it makes me bawl every time. I agree, that's such a good scene. Like most people, I hope I'm very anti-war, and a lot of war films looking at Hacksaw Ridge tend to be saccharine, pro-war, and just a bit awkward. Yeah. However, I'm wiping away that final tear after watching Band of Brothers every time, thinking, wow, that's what a real hero looks like. And that's what I meant. It doesn't need to deconstruct about why we need heroes or whatever. It's just recognizing them for what they did. Yeah. With nuance as well, I like it. There's elements about how some people aren't cut out for war, how it changes people, brilliant. For anyone in the UK who wants to watch the Band of Brothers, they're on Now TV or Sky Atlantic. Also, I agree that Band of Brothers is way better than The Pacific, although The Pacific is worth watching. Also, she says, how good does it look considering its age? Excluding one scene with pretty ropey CGI, I'm always surprised about how it looks and feels like it could have been shot a couple of years ago. That was from Lucy. And then Max also writes in and said that over Christmas he watched Band of Brothers, and he said it was so funny that it was mentioned in the same episode previously. Max also writes in about Band of Brothers and says, it is my first viewing of the series and I've been meaning to watch it for years. It is excellent. I would recommend it to anyone. I realise this is not new news, but I remember the reason I didn't stick with it about 10 years ago, and it was because I struggled to separate David Schwimmer from Friends and couldn't get over him. For a lot of people. So David Schwimmer plays, he's in it a few times, but predominantly in the first episode as Herbert Sobel, who is their commanding officer, who is this tyrannical, draconian, brutal officer, also slightly inept. And it is slightly strange seeing him in it, but he's great. He is really great in it. But as Max says, couldn't get over him essentially being Red Ross in military uniform.
Also, because some of Ross's humour style is to be like a little bit up there. Oh, really? We're doing that?
And do you know what? Let me finish this thought. I'll get to that. It really took me out of the mood and seriousness of the series. Needless to say, I got over it, and it was such an incredible and moving watch. Anyway, just some thoughts that I wanted to send through on the David Schwimmer thing. I sympathise with David Schwimmer, because even at that point when that series was made, Friends hadn't even finished yet.
No, it's 04 Friends.
But we all know Friends now much more than even it was when he was in that series.
Yeah.
So my point is that as an actor trying to get away from a famous role, normally over time that role diminishes in size and you can extricate from yourself. But now Ross is so much bigger.
David Schwimmer's
and so sometimes that can reflect poorly on his performance, but actually he's really great in it.
He's also great in The People vs. OJ.
He's a good actor. He's theatre trained, and you can see that in Friends in his comedy style. But there is a bit in the first episode where I was like, oh, that's a little bit Ross, when he's telling someone off and it goes like, this is not just any company, this is Easy Company. And I just went to go, my sandwich.
Unagi.
Yeah, exactly. Also, in rewatching Band of Brothers, I came to realise, and I've noticed this before, there are so many famous people in Band of Brothers
class of Band of
before
Brothers.
They were famous. Yeah. And I've got it written down for you here. That's one of the delights in rewatching it.
I definitely have forgotten
that person is in it. Yeah. So I'm going to read for you, James. Here are some of the famous faces who are not famous.
And some of them who've only been famous, like properly famous, the last 6-7 years.
Yeah.
Like new-ish.
So you turn on Band of Brothers and you get Michael Fassbender.
Huge.
In it a lot.
And wasn't famous really till 2009, 2008.
With Inglourious Basterds, yeah. Stephen Graham.
Yeah, Mike.
Yeah. Andrew Scott. He has quite a significant part in the second episode. James McAvoy.
Yeah, huge.
Simon Pegg. Tom Hardy.
Huge.
And inexplicably, for one scene, Jimmy Fallon.
Yeah, he was acting. He did a bit of acting in the early 2000s.
But all of those actors, what I find quite interesting, who are like side characters within the whole Band of Brothers story.
All huge megastars.
Huge megastars and bigger, with the exception of Damian Lewis and Ron Livingston, are actually bigger than the predominant supporting characters within Band of Brothers. That's what I find. Fassbender is actually probably in it the most out of all of them. He's just like, he has a few lines, but he's just also in shots. He's just always there, and they're always talking to him. They're like, oh, Christensen, could you do this? And he's just there, like, Fassbender every time. So that's another little delight to go and see.
I'm often reminded when thinking back of the great TV shows from before the era when we started to say, we're in the golden age of television, look at all the great TV that's coming out. And it does remind me that when we first like had like the Netflix boom and like the House of Cards, Orange is the New Black, and Breaking Bad, we were like, oh, TV's so great now. I think like I think a lot of us expected that we would get more shows that are considered those 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10 all-time greatest shows. But I actually think what we still have, like once or twice a year, we get really top shows like Succession, you know, House of the Dragon, whatever you want to call it. But I really do think we get almost the same amount of those 10 out of 10 TV shows. What we actually now have are just loads
baggy middle
of 6 or 7 out, I'm just using numbers, like 6 or 7 out of 10 shows that have been hyper catered to a very specific audience. So like there's sort of very passable, put it on and it will entertain you for a bit, but it's not new or that refreshing. Like show for, you know, women of a certain age or this, or young boys who like this. Like, you know what I mean? All the Star Wars and the Marvel stuff. Just lots of very sort of, it'll entertain you. Don't cancel your subscription. But the number of real top tier shows, I don't think really has dramatically increased.
I'd say it's almost like, I think probably the number might have, but the percentage, the ratio is probably still the same.
I don't think the HBO probably of all of them does, but I don't think these networks have a formula to create those shows.
No.
Like Apple TV, considering all the money and all the shows they made, haven't yet found like the show.
Also, I think the law of averages just means that the more you make, the baggier the middle is.
Yes.
That's where you get lots of middle shows.
Lots of middle.
And occasionally things surprise you and break forward. And you probably get shows that wouldn't have typically been made or surprise you.
And sometimes like you buy lots of tickets to the raffle. Like Netflix makes Squid Game. There's no way they knew it would be that big, but it goes on to be that big. Great, make another one more.
Yeah.
So it's almost like if we just keep making them, maybe one will hit. But
I think
it does remind you that it's a golden age, but it's not.
Well, I think we're past it now. We're in peak.
Right.
Bloated peak TV. But yeah, you're right. It's not.
There's definitely a pre and post from like sort of 2013, 2010.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Anyway, that was, if you've seen Band of Brothers or go on to see it, following me talking about it,
let us know.
Let us know what you thought about it.
PulpKitchenPodcast.com. Guys, thank you for listening to this bonus episode of Pulp Kitchen. We hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget, we post full episodes every single Wednesday. If you haven't listened to the full episode, go back and listen to that. We reviewed All of Us Strangers and Society of the Snow. But other than that, we will see you next week. Thank you very much for joining us.
Bye.